So hello and welcome to a new video. Today we have an Asus Prime X570-P. Really nice mainboard. Let's look inside of the box. And here we have it. And luckily the board comes fairly complete. I have basically all we need. Like the I/O bracket and the mounting for the cooler and some M.2 screws as well. The CD. Let's get this cleaned up and get only the mainboard under the view. So we have this beautiful board for today, showing you once more, Prime X570-P. At first I thought that there's missing M.2 covers, but the board comes like this. And I got this board for no boot. I have no further information on it, what has happened to it. So we're going to be starting the usual with our checks with Multimeter. So let's go into our usual measurements. We get a ground. Let's start 12 volts. Kilo ohms and rising. Oh, kinda low. 1.5 kilo ohms. It's not rising. That seems interesting. Okay. See, 5 volts. Okay, kilo ohms and rising. 3.3 volts. Kinda low, but should be fine. 5 VSB. Seems to be more than kilo ohms. Okay, PS on. Also fine. Okay, let's go into 12 volts. Kilo ohms and rising. Let's go from 12 volts to the phase. So we go onto an inductor that we have to see if we have a short circuit directly to the phase of the processor. And we do not. That looks fine. So this is the usual measurements. Let's go for voltage and see for the BIOS battery. And we have 2.8, which is kind of low. This is a bad indicator for sometimes having a bad SIO. Let's check around the SIO. This might be just a normal draw, but it might also be because of the SIO. So let's go around some of the capacitors around the SIO and see. Okay, this seems fine. Let's check another one. And this looks also fine. Let's check pin 1. And that seems also fine. Okay, so I don't think we have a problem with our SIO. And now I would go over to putting a CPU into here and seeing for the passive power consumption and seeing for the power consumption if we hit the power button and the reaction for the power button. So the board is built up. We have a 2200G in here. We have the DDR tester in here. We have a speaker. And now let's connect our power supply. And let's see for the passive power consumption. 240, 170, 200, around 200 milliamps. This is kinda high, because especially it is jumping like that. Don't like to see that. Let's see if it reacts to the power button. It does. 2.4, and we have 55 on the DDR tester, which means we have a problem. We have missing RAM. I have not populated any RAM, so let's put in some RAM. So the CPU seems to be recognized because we do get further to DDR. Let's try this again. Let's see, 2.7 amps. We have C0. We have a beep. Let's see. Those were 5 beeps, I think. But the board is on. I have indication on the keyboard. Okay, let's get a post screen onto here and see how this board behaves. So I went ahead. We now have a post screen onto here. We have HDMI and I've populated all of the RAM sticks. And let's see how this board will react now. If every single one of these RAM sticks will get recognized. But so far we are stuck at 2.7 amps. So we might have a problem with RAM recognition here. Did not get a post beep. So let's try to turn this off, and let's do bit by bit, add RAM bit by bit, and see if that then works. So we're going to start off with the two left slots, and let's see if we now can get boot again out of it. And now we get boot. As you heard, there was the beep, and we already have a BIOS screen right there. Okay, so these two work. Let's get another stick of RAM into here, and we get another beep. So 2 work as well. 3 work as well. So let's get the 4th one into here, and we get a boot. Okay, so we just had bad seating or dirty RAM slots, and now we have boot. And let's see if I hit F1. We should be going into the BIOS. Let me open this up. Yep, we are in BIOS. Okay, so far nothing damaged about this board. Let me get a CPU into here that isn't an AP. Get a CPU cooler onto here. We will put M.2 into here, and we will then be testing PCIe, and we will be testing the Ethernet and the USB to see if all of that is working or not. So the board is now built up. I have now a GPU into here. I have an M.2, I have a processor, the 4100, and the cooler, and let's see if it works now. I would want to see if PCIe is being detected properly. So if we have 16x on this card, or for this card in particular it's 8x as far as I know, 3.0, and if the M.2 works properly, that we get boot into Windows, and that the board is also stable with running stress tests. So let's see if all of that works or not. So far, the picture that you see in the top right is the previous one that we had, but I cannot get boot out of the first PCIe slot. Oh, never mind. So I do have a problem regarding the first PCIe slot, I think. We do get improper boot behavior out of that. Let's try the second PCIe slot and see if we get better boot behavior out of that, because the picture I get from there isn't really as I expected it to be, as you can see in the top right. So I wasn't even able to turn the board off by the power button. So let's try to put it into the second PCIe slot and see if we can get boot now. So trying to boot into Windows, I get this weird post screen which is just blue. Like the one that you can see is a little bit different. I want to show you right here. This is my post screen. It's just blue. There's nothing more happening. The power consumption is very static, and there's nothing happening. I'm going to be trying a little bit more back and forth with changing out the PCIe device, and I might also want to swap the M.2 into the other slot and see if that has any change. So there definitely is something not behaving quite right here. So now trying with the GPU in the first slot and the M.2 in the lower slot. So I still cannot get a boot out of this, and the power consumption is also basically stuck. This is very weird. I will want to try to get a different boot device on here. So I have a SATA SSD. So I will be adding a SATA SSD onto here and see if that works or not. Okay, so I now have a SATA SSD connected. Let's see if that will work. Okay, it seems very similar to what we had before. And the same thing, as you can see. Still blue. Okay, I need to rule some things out. I want to see now if this happens with just if this is actually trying to enter Windows already, or if this is just happening because of the GPU. So now booting with only the GPU in here, and let's see. And with only the GPU in here, we get that exact problem still. Okay, I want to try a different GPU in here to rule that out. So let's use our beautiful GT310 in here. And let's see now if we have any different kind of behavior. We get a post beep, but we do not have any signal output so far. So we have no boot. So we did get a post beep, but we don't have any picture yet. And I do not have any indication on my keyboard. So let's put the GPU into a different slot. So we still get a post beep out of the also the lower slot, but we don't have a picture. So what we will be trying now is be using a riser, a PCIe riser, and we will be plugging into the 1x slots to see if that gives a picture. So what we have right now is the riser with the GPU. It's connected via 8-pin to there. This powers the 3 volts and 3 volts that's going onto here, and it's connecting to the first 1x slot. And let's see if we can get boot with that now. So the power consumption of the GPU will not be included here anymore because we bypassed this the current reading via this cable that is going into there. So we do get a post beep. Let's see if we get a picture. And we still do not get a picture. This is really weird. So far we only got via an APU a picture out of this. So let's see for the other 1x slots. So I've put it in a lower one and not the top one. Okay, so none of that had any effect. What I want to do now is I want to take out the CPU, swap it with a different CPU, and then test again with a GPU also in here. So currently there's the 4100 in here, and what I want to do now is I want to put, I have a 2600. I will put that into here, and we will be quickly testing if that has any different result. So now we have the 2600 in here, and we have the GPU in the first in the primary PCIe slot. Let's see how this will behave now. And still, oh, is it for real? Now we get a post screen. Okay, I think something about the BIOS isn't right. So we seem to have a BIOS problem where the 4100 gets recognized but doesn't work properly. The image that you see is a little bit distorted, but I have a clean image here, as you can see right there. So what we want to do now is we want to flash the BIOS together with this working CPU in here. Let's turn this off once more. As soon as we got into BIOS, yeah, we got into BIOS, and let's see at the BIOS version. We have 2407. Keep that in mind. So I'm going to be turning it off now. I'm going to be installing a proper heatsink onto here on the CPU, and we will be flashing the BIOS on here. We can have a look. We might be able to flash the BIOS via the board itself with just Ethernet connected. Some Asus mainboards have the possibility to just flash themselves just with connected Ethernet and getting into the BIOS. And let's see if this board is able to do that. So very interesting so far. We have concluded that the BIOS is probably partially damaged because the 4100 gets recognized, it boots up with it, but as soon as you try to get a GPU connected with it, it just freezes and doesn't go anywhere. Because I think the 4100 should be natively supported on this board. So yeah, we have a BIOS picture. Really don't know why it is so weird for you, why there's multiple of it. Because if you have a look at my screen, it's just normal. So this board seems to only have the usual flashing procedure via USB stick. So I will be preparing a USB stick and I will be flashing the board via that. So we do have a USB stick connected onto here right now, and now I will be entering the BIOS flashing procedure. It's kind of hard to see, but if you look at a single picture, you see now the flashing procedure has begun. So I will get you back as soon as that is done. So now the update was successful. The board is restarting by itself. And let's see if we get proper boot out of this now. So this is still the stock image that we had before. And now we get a new post. So we had a post beep. And let's see if we can get into BIOS. There is flashing being done for the firmware of the Aura chips right now. This is what you can see right there. BIOS is updating LED firmware. Do not shut down or reset the system to prevent system boot failure. So let's wait for that to happen. And now we have a normal boot screen as far as it seems. Let's see if we can get into the BIOS. And now it's distorted again. Okay, let's see. Okay, we get into BIOS right now. Okay, now we have an updated version, the 5013. Before we had like 24 something, so we had a very old BIOS version. Let's now do the actual test and put the 4100 into here and see if we can now get a boot out of the 4100. So let's now with the 4100 see if anything has changed. And we get a beep. Let's see. And we still have the same. Oh, no. Now it's working. Very nice. Now we have a proper boot screen with this CPU. That is very good to see. New CPU install. Please enter setup. Configure system. Very nice. What we're now going to do, now we're going to be proceeding to the usual. So I will be putting in a M.2 drive into here. And we will be going into Windows and we will be doing some stress tests. And now we are entering Windows. Very, very nice. So let's get into Windows and then run some stress tests. And now we've entered Windows and I will be running a stress test. This one is LinPack for the CPU to stress it. And I will be getting you back into here as soon as that is done. And with that, LinPack has passed without any problems. So this board teaches us a very, very valuable lesson. Because I have gone now into the support side for this board. And I saw that the 4100 is only supported way later BIOS versions than we had on here. We had a 2004 or 200, yeah, no, 240 something or something like that BIOS on here, and the 4100 is only supported way later. And if you now look on the board, it says Ryzen 3000 desktop ready right there. So this board wasn't shipped out in a state where it supported the 5000 series. So this is probably one of the older X570 boards, or so one of the first ones. So, and I think what has happened is that the previous owner has bought this board in a working condition, and it is actually working, and they have tried to put a newer generation CPU into here. So they have probably tried to put something like the 5800 X3D or something like that into here, and they were just not getting a boot out of it. Or they were getting a boot out of it like we did, but weren't getting any kind of indication on the screen like we had. So just this is basically user error, and this was user error on my side as well. I for the lucky part have a big assortment of CPUs. So what I have is all of these here, plus the one that is in here. So I already always tell you, especially if you do AM4, you need a couple of different processors. What I always say is you need at least two APUs one newer generation, like I have here, this is a 3000G, and one older generation, I have a 2200G, because there are boards out there, AM4 boards, that only support like the newer generations, and they don't support like the 2200G as an APU. And you also need the 2200G in case you have boards like this or other ones that don't have the BIOS for the newer generations. And then I also like to get some actual CPUs that have a little bit more grunt that you can test the VRM. This is a 3500X and this is a 2600, so you can actually have some draw out of the board. And then you also have the 4100 that is currently in this system. And the same goes for 12th, 13th and 14th gen Intel. I do not have yet any build up stock of these. I instantly bought a 12th gen Intel CPU, so that most of the main boards would work with this one, because you would have quite some boards that need an upgrade BIOS to support 13th and 14th generation of Intel. So that is a big thing to take out. You sadly just need a lot of different processors. The same thing will go for AM5. I will have to get an AM5 APU and one of the earlier ones in order to be able to test AM5 out and get those reliably working. But yeah, I hope you learned something out of this, because I made a mistake testing this, but we were able to resolve it. The previous owner thought this was damaged and sold it as damaged, but it wasn't damaged. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this repair or this analysis of why this wasn't booting, because I didn't really repair anything, I just updated the BIOS. I hope you learned something. This was Mainboardmatic. Thank you very much and goodbye.